Hi, I'm Camille, an animal communicator, a healer, a channel, and a storyteller. And I love to tell stories about my animal work and when I visit animals. So I thought I'd like to share a story with you today about a horse that held me captive for a ransom of apples. I lived in the country around Winnipeg for a number of years, and on one of the properties I lived, there was a neighbor of mine called Joan who had a small herd of horses. Now, I love horses, I really do, but I'm not that familiar with their behaviors, and I'm not that comfortable around them because I don't understand their behaviors, and I'm not sure about sort of being in an open area with them. But I love to watch them. I love to talk to them. I love to give them treats. So I got to know Joan when I moved into the area, and we soon became friends and developed a little pathway between the bush line between our properties so that I could go over and I would visit with the horses. And during the spring and summer and fall, I'd take over grass clippings to them. I take over apples or carrots. Apples seem to be their favorite. And I go over on the fence line and call them, and they come running up to me as soon as they figured out I was the treat lady, and would spend time with me. And I learned about them that way. And one day, as I was talking to Joan about a project I was doing on my own land, which was developing a new garden, I said I was looking for some manure and had to go and get some. And she volunteered manure that she had. I didn't know it, but at the back of her property, she had two large piles of manure, and some of it was so old, it had turned into almost dirt. Perfect for gardens, perfect for my purposes. So she walked me through how to get into the horse pasture and how to move to the back of the property without letting the horses out and without being in any danger. So the next day, in my excitement, I decided it was a good day to go and get some manure, and I got onto my tractor and had already hitched the wagon up to it and started to go over to her property. She'd also told me that when I went over, I shouldn't take any treats for the horses because they could overwhelm me while I was in their pasture. And it'd be better not to do that. So she knows horses more than I do, so I agreed to that. I arrived at the first gate that I had to go through, no problem. Got to the second gate I had to go through, no problem. But by now the horses were watching me because they were used to my having stopped and given them treats all the time, and that wasn't happening this time. But I wasn't in any danger, and I kept chugging along in my little tractor. The horses came over and they sniffed my head, sniffed my hair, and sniffed my clothes, and sniffed the tractor and the little wagon, I think probably looking for treats, but there weren't any, so they didn't really bother me. I chugged around the corner, headed to the back of the property, and that's when the problem started. There stood Smokey in the middle of the road. But he wasn't just in the middle of the road, he was horizontal in the road. And because there were hay bales on one side of the little road and big bushes on the other side of the little road, I couldn't move forward unless he moved. I stopped the tractor. I looked at him. I had a little chat telepathically as well as out loud to him and asked him if he'd be good enough to move for me so I could get by. His immediate response was no. And in fact, it was a pretty firm no as he looked at me with a hard look. Oh my goodness, I had no idea what to do. I didn't think that I could get out and move him. I wasn't confident enough to do that. So I tried again. I explained to him why I wanted to go by him, that I wanted to go to the manure piles, and asked again if he'd move, and he said no. I sat there for a few minutes trying to figure out what to do. I really, really wanted that manure. And finally, I thought, maybe he wants something from me. So I asked him, what will it take for you to move so I could get by you? And his immediate response was apples. The little stinker wanted apples in order to move. And then he told me very clearly that anytime I came into his yard, I was to bring treats. I told him I understood, and I guaranteed that that would happen. He looked at me again, a long look, and then he stepped aside off the road. I started my tractor up, turned around, kept going all the way along, got into the area with the manure pile, no more problems, got out, started to dig up the manure and put it into my wagon, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw this gray mass coming towards me, and I thought, oh my goodness, what else does he want? He didn't stop and talk to me. He looked at me, and then he climbed to the top of the manure pile. Now, the manure pile wasn't just a little pile. It was probably about 20 feet high. It wasn't an easy feat, but up he went to the top of the manure pile, urinated, and then turned around and gave me a very meaningful look, and the message was really clear. I said, thank you for allowing me to take your manure out of your yard. I appreciate it, and when I come back, I'll make sure that I always bring you treats and apples. Down he went and away he went, and that was the end of him holding me ransom. But any time after that, when I entered that yard to get manure with treats, and mostly treats that were apples. And that's the tale of Smokey, the boss of the yard next door. And that's it for my tales today, but I was telling you more, and if you're interested, please join me, subscribe, join me on Instagram, join my website. All of it's under bluewolfspeaks.com, and I'll be sure to tell you other stories. And until then, remember, listen carefully to your animals. They're always talking to you.